very much. And she brought donuts.
She always does, just so you know. As the former chair, she always brought donuts.
Well, as the current chair that is trying to lose weight, I'm on that right now. I walked 2.5 miles this morning. We're not eating donuts.
Good for you. And I want to say I'm going to miss everyone. And this commission does such great work. And I was always very proud to be a part of it, and was proud to work with Mary Reed throughout the years as vice chair. And here we have an expanding older adult population, and what invaluable work that you will continue. So thank you.
No, the thanks actually really goes to you. And please, come back and visit, or, provide us, if you already talked about that, provide us with your address, and we'll all come up to Michigan. It's a beautiful state.
I love that.
I'm waiting for agendas and the list so we can go through the list. Sorry. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 8:34. Hans is distributing the kind of breakdown of those that we are reviewing this morning. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor. Seconded by Paula. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment this morning?
Thank you.
Seeing none, we'll go on to old business, which is basically looking at the letters of intent and determining what entities we'd like to come forward to make their full presentation to all of us. In the past, we've not really had quorum, and everybody came forward. I would like to limit that.
We've only had that happen one time,
Okay,
and that
thank
was
you.
last year.
Okay, thank you, last year.
Yeah.
So, looking at people who have been on the commission before, I'll take some direction from you as to how we move forward and eliminate some of the individuals. My suggestion, and again, I'm looking at Paula and Mayor, my suggestion is to look at the new ones and determine whether or not they are viable. I remind everybody, we have 1.6 million. We received almost $1 million more in requests, and many of those who were in front of this commission last year increased their ask substantially. So just noting that those are the variables that we are dealing with. I also have had conversation with Chairman Bueller and with Hans, and I'd like you all to think about this possibility. United Way, when people were not successful or when they didn't have the opportunity to move forward in their requests, we then had a subsequent meeting with all of those individuals to review their applications and see if there wasn't another pathway for them, other services, or if there wasn't something that they had in their application that we didn't particularly think was viable enough. So I'd like to start that for this commission as well. And what I'd like to do is, with those entities that do not move forward, is after the awards, Hans, myself, and our vice chair, Mary, would meet with those organizations and kind of go through their applications, and again, maybe give them better guidance as a better ask, or perhaps a better narrative of what they actually do. So if that kind of gets concurrence, I would like to go forward with that.
Are we ready to discuss which one?
Yes, ma'am, you please. And I
So-
love it if you, I'm sorry.
And can
ma'am.
I just say too, I think sometimes in the past too, we kind of get caught up on, like discussing different aspects of the applications, and really today is, do we want them to go forward and do the full application or not? And if there's a lot of discussion, then I think that means that we just need to move them forward, because that's where we'll get more of that detail. I think sometimes we get caught up in all that discussion that really just means
We need
do the
more,
whole
yeah.
application.
I don't,
So
I do not
think,
disagree with that.
yeah, so sometimes that, we kind of get passionate about that, so just a reminder of that.
Thank you. Paula, did you want to?
Well, two things. I read the Barrington Area Council on Aging, and I know it's for only $5,000, but I think there's a redundancy as far as case management services that's being conducted through McHenry for Senior Services Associates of McHenry County. And that is the hub for many seniors to call into and provide those, and those services being provided. So I think there's a redundancy, and that's my take.
And again, they're new this year, and I don't want to discourage, which is why I suggested a meeting thereafter to talk to them. But again, it's 5,000, and we already have $1 million more
Right.
and ask. So they would be one that I would strongly recommend we just meet with afterwards and say, we think they're viable, maybe there's
Right.
other services, but
Right.
at this particular time, we're very limited on the amount of funds.
And
So
I think-
I would just, I would also, I concur. I also would ask them not to
Yeah,
make a
because I think
presentation.
Senior Volunteer Care Network, I think between Senior Services and Senior Volunteer, so that name is just too hard for me to wrap my head around.
No, that's true.
That they both are providing the services that this agency is asking for.
I concur.
And
Okay,
then
so,
Habitat for Humanity, we need a service that helps seniors to remain at home and for repairs, and trying to make referrals for seniors who need eaves troughs or all that stuff. It's a very difficult referral to make because many seniors, they don't have the money for the repair of their homes. And our mission is to delay nursing home placement, keep people in their homes for a quality of life, for a nice quality of life. And I was happy to see the Habitat for Humanity coming forward.
and I felt the exact same way.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask Hans to address that too.
Okay.
Matt and
Yeah.
then Mary.
I concur completely, and I looked at it, and I really wish they'd had a bigger ask and something else could have trimmed, because nowadays that is so important to keep them there, even for facility capacities. I think it's so important to keep them there.
And they're credible and viable. And one of the conversations we had at several of our meetings was that seniors are taken advantage of, and there's a lot of people out there that offer those services and then don't provide anything after they take the money.
And
So,
through our company,
understood.
we provide senior services,
Mhm.
and the scale slides on their ability to pay. We just helped one in Sleepy Hollow that had no way of leaving. She'd become wheelchair bound on top of being a senior, and she literally had no way out of her house, front, back, or side. So we had to build her a ramp and a patio and everything out the back, and she had no ability to pay. Now through Kane County, to a board member I met at Kane County, I've got her hooked up with a service that's doing that.
That's great.
They have some of the HARPA funds to work with too, so. But I think this is hugely important.
And I'm going to ask Hans again to address this after we have this conversation.
Well, because the Housing Authority also has programs to help with home repairs
Okay.
and funding that they receive from the county that helps with that as well.
Mhm.
So,
I love you. So we're going to dovetail.
thank you.
Because I did the same thing when Hans and I kind of, did a cursory review of some of these, and he provided me substantially more information that may make you think a little differently. So
Right.
can I ask you to address the additional funds that are available to Habitat and why we may take that into consideration?
Right.
So we have somewhere in the neighborhood of about $430,000 available through the Housing Authority right now, that we're working with them on a roofing program focused on seniors. There's $138,000 in allocation already made for CDBG to Habitat, and they typically focus on rearranging the household so that the
Okay.
individual could stay. Habitat does also have a $300,000 grant for home modifications from IDA, Illinois Housing Development Authority. I think this is a very relevant project, so I will never say it's not. It's just I want to
Right.
point out there is other funding available.
Right. And so it seems a shame to take $50,000 that they asked for from some of the smaller agencies that don't have access to other funding sources to be able to provide the services that they're asking for here.
And that's kind of my, Matt, do you have a comment?
I don't disagree with all of this, but I don't think that, I still think it's very viable. I think the service they provide compared to all of these that are somewhere or another a little redundant, except food services, which we know. I think it's the next highest priority for seniors in McHenry County is to stay in their homes. Therefore, I feel like it should stay on the list.
Okay. I'm going to go on and put that kind of as a question mark, because again, I think as we look at others, we may come back and reevaluate that.
Right.
To show exactly that they do have access to substantially more funds than many of the other agencies do. And again, we'll meet with them and talk to them about that and still keep them in the loop. I don't want to lose any of these organizations to future asks, but I just think right now, we're going to have to prioritize some.
Right.
And those that have other available means, maybe we just need to note that. So, any other comments about any? Matt, you made a comment about food services, and I think I concur with that. And looking down here, who was that?
Catholic Charities.
Yeah, I think Catholic Charities moves forward just because I think they're unique and they have to. So I think that's on the list for presentation. That's an easy one, I think.
And I looked at their budget, and in my past role, I served on the Area Agency on Aging Board, and Catholic Charities received the Older American Act dollars for pass-through for congregate meals and home delivered meals. So what we do, what we provide is also a complement to those dollars that come into the county from the Area Agency on Aging. But the other piece about Catholic Charities doing home delivered meals, not only are they delivering meals, but they're doing a well-being check. And they're getting into the home and really taking a look of what is going on in the home, and also with the issue of social isolation. And that is a big problem for many seniors for mental health reasons. And so I think that it's not just about delivering homes, but they serve in different kinds of things.
And I think they can also look at the house as well.
Right, they look
and
around.
Yeah, and make those
Yes.
determinations as well. So I concur. I'm gonna, if you guys bear with me, I'm gonna say, well, no, because you're leaving. So I'm gonna talk, Scott, I'm pointing at you. So I'm gonna talk real quickly about transportation.
Yes.
I don't mind if all of you want transportation to come and make a presentation, but attending the open house on Tuesday, my days are blending, there was a huge conversation, and all those in attendance did indicate transportation was an extremely important priority for seniors. I have to tell you, Scott and I have had these conversations too. I can't, I'm just not in my head, can I, not rationalize, but I can't fathom how it is the county spends as much money as we spend on transportation, and yet we're also still giving grants to other entities. I do get they're different, don't misunderstand. Thank you very much for that lesson. I learned. But there's got to be a way with all that money that we can somehow coordinate better. Scott and I had a conversation. We're going to meet after public health, see if we can't do some things, and that's another group that I think we need to have come in and sit down and talk to us and figure out how we use our dollars better. Because there are different needs. I do understand that there are people who can't do curb to curb. They need significantly more personalized care. But there's got to be a way for us to look at how we're spending all of these dollars and do it better. And I don't know. I don't know if we've ever had those conversations, but I'm making a huge suggestion that in between now and the presentation time, we meet with all of those organizations and we start talking about how we can do it better.
So are you thinking, is your thought that the money that we're allocating for transportation for these unique transportation services then just be moved over into the county transportation program,
Or possibly one of our other providers who have volunteers. Maybe there's more, there are better ways to get volunteers with vouchers or help them with car insurance, I don't know. But there's other programs that are out there that, you know, we have somewhat investigated that we can meet those needs and do it without, you know, being duplicative. So no, I'm not saying necessarily the county, I'm
Because-
just saying
yeah.
that there's gotta be better coordination. And maybe it is through, you know, senior network, maybe it is through volunteer, I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know, I just know we can do it
I
better.
know when we see that McHenry Senior Transportation bus at Walmart, you know, you've got 8 people getting off the bus at the same time getting their shopping done and then getting dropped back off. And I don't know, is there an agency that can handle, you know, I think they're efficient in the way that they're doing that. So is that still gonna be able to,
I'm not opposed
You
to
know?
any of it, yeah, I know, but that's the conversation, you've done it again.
Right.
That's the conversation
Yeah.
that we need to have with everybody in the room. You know, the county's budget gets tight too, you know.
Right.
Matt Teresa can vouch for that. So I just want to make sure that we're using the dollars appropriately, and if there isn't a way to evaluate what we're doing and do it better. That's all I'm suggesting. Eric, do you have?
Yeah, I do. I'm stewing over here, but I agree with you. But, so I'm a township
I can
supervisor.
tell about, see, that's why you like meetings in person, see what's happening.
I probably not very well, but I'm a township supervisor, and so I'm probably going to be, my peers are not going to like me right now, but when I saw the townships on here, it really bothered me because there's not-for-profits here who can't generate funds, right? They can ask for money, but they can't always get it. As a township, if I really need more money, I can increase my levy, right? If these townships need more services, they can increase their levy. And so that's, no one likes being taxed more, I know. I'm not advocating for that, but I don't think they need the money like some of these other services need money. And then my second point is, as a county, I'm thinking about how do we provide for the county. And these townships are asking for money for their township, that money's gonna stay in their township. So my township being taxed, so that, I don't mean to pick on a township, but I don't like that the county is giving money to this little pod, it's giving it to, you know, again, my peers, township supervisors are not gonna like me for saying that, but I don't think they belong on this list, I just don't.
Matt?
And sadly, we're relegated to the fact that we're actually looking at dollars per ride or dollars per mile. We have to make that as efficient as possible.
That's right.
The township that I live in has 2 senior buses. They don't operate very often.
Yeah, we got rid of ours.
Yeah, they don't
Didn't make
operate
sense.
very often, so I don't see that as an efficient service either way. I think we have to look at how far can we stretch those dollars per mile or per ride.
So again, I'm going to ask, when we do sit down, I'm going to invite all 3 townships to come in, sit down with Scott, and have a candid conversation. It doesn't need to end there. We can have other people, some of our organizations and providers, senior providers, bring them in and start to talk, but I concur. There's got to be a way that we can do this better with our providers, with our senior providers, as well as with the money that we have at the county level that we're already spending. So, you know, it's a project, I'm always looking for projects, so we'll include individuals who are interested in helping us kind of come up with some ideas and see how we can handle that.
About, on mental health, with my other thing,
that she's losing?
We're losing, we're all
But
losing.
she's,
we did a study about how transportation programs are pocketed within agencies, and I've had conversations with you, Scott, about how we need to have a better coordination as far as transportation, like a hub, because it's an economy of scale, right? And so we discovered, like, for example, NISRA has their transportation program. I think Senior Services Associates have some transportation. I mean, the list goes on, and how can we, remember my conversation with you? I think that's what's really missing in our county is that we need to have a central dispatching, central location. I can say these things, I'm leaving. But you know, a good example that has done a good coordination of things was CCON. When they started coordinating the dispatching in different municipalities. And there was a reluctance in doing that, but it's been very successful and it has reduced costs. And, but there was a study, they did a study at the Mental Health Board. We could see how much money we were spending there for transportation services, you know, for the DV population. I mean, all of that, and then you compile, and then you have seniors, and some of the people at the mental health community are aging in place.
So maybe instead of just pulling the 3 transportation, pull into the conversation anybody that offers transportation. So any of the agencies, and pull everybody in together to come up with how we can better serve
That's
the
the idea.
transportation.
Except I think I want those 3 in the county first. Obviously, we're gonna pull in people thereafter. I would also ask Eric to sit in on some of that township stuff too, just so that there's kind of an outside. But I kind of feel the same way, but we're gonna get everybody around. It's a big issue, it's a priority. We noted that at the last meeting. We just have to do better, because it is, you're right, it's
everywhere.
It pops everywhere, yeah,
Yeah.
so.
So I have another.
Can I go to Teresa first?
Absolutely.
Teresa?
Yeah, I was just wondering, so I mean, it sounds, for the 2 years I was on this commission prior, it always said, we really need to have to cover these, but of course we have, because of the experience of the commission, is, oh, no, we need to have this, and there's a need to have. Are we talking about taking them off and then kind of having Scott promise he's gonna work with
He
these?
said he promised, I'm promising.
Yeah, on Scott's behalf.
And I talked to Joe Korpolsky,
Yes.
I mean, I have buy-in from
Okay.
Connie D, McDonald, and other people. So it's again, it's been percolating out there for, it's not me. It's been percolating out there for a long time.
Yeah.
All of you have had this conversation.
Right.
I'm just saying, let's take the time now and sit down and figure it out and invite people in. I will tell you, attending on Tuesday was an eye-opener for me.
Well, I think though, we can't exclude them for this cycle until we have a plan in place.
I'm not, we'll meet
No,
between
but
now and then, yeah.
that's what I was kind of
Oh,
getting
okay, so
from you.
we're not
So
taking them off, okay.
that's what I was getting from your question.
Oh,
So
yes,
I just-
yes,
I think
okay.
we have to have a plan before we say, we're not going to, because then what do we do with all these seniors that rely on that door-to-door service? So until we actually have a good plan, I don't think we can
Wasn't
not
suggesting
consider
it,
that.
was just indicating that hopefully before, and Scott, that we talk to them and see if
Yeah.
there's not a solution, but yeah, Scott.
I mean, it's something we've been talking about, how long has this been around, 20 years?
Yeah,
So it's 20
Listen,
years, we've been
I was-
having a conversation about the
Right.
differences
I was
between.
mayor when we had a conversation,
Right.
and that was over 20 years ago,
Right.
so.
Right.
So three quick, I'm trying to keep them all straight in my head. So one thing, I agree with everything Paula said about a centralized call center. We've done that at the county level. So we've coordinated, there used to be 5 different call centers that Pace in the cities would operate, the townships would operate. We've consolidated into one call center, which has decreased costs substantially on the county's program. So we're already doing that. I think Paul is right. There are a lot of savings that could be generated by consolidating the call center. The second thing is, we do offer door-to-door service. The county offers door-to-door service today. We've been offering door-to-door service for 10 years now on our program. We call it a curb-to-curb service because 99% of people, that's perfectly fine for them. But for the 1% that need door-to-door, we make it very clear that people can ask the call center to provide door-to-door service. And somebody will come up right to their door. The driver will actually help them get onto the bus and help them get off the bus on the return trip. So that is something that's often thrown out a lot, that the county doesn't offer door to door. We have, and we still do today. So that
Well,
is.
and I think that's not ever been clear, because you've been
Yeah.
here and talked about it before, and when we had that conversation, this is the first time I'm hearing that from the county,
Yeah.
that
Yes.
that's an option.
True.
Thank you.
So-
We actually were gonna have, I apologize to you too, you're gonna have Scott come and do a full presentation. We just ran out of time, so.
The third thing I wanted to mention, to Eric's point, is we've slowly expanded the county's program from just 3 cities and 1 township to now today it's a county-wide service. And the reason we did that wasn't because we just wanted to go county-wide for no reason. It's because we got calls from residents in townships that weren't part of our service, in cities that weren't part of our service, and saying, I pay county taxes. I can't use your program. This is unfair. Why can't I get a bus ride in Chemung Township just because, you guys don't serve Chemung Township? This is county money you're using to fund these programs. I do draw a comparison to what we're doing here in the senior services grant. This is county money going to 3 municipal or township entities. And I think there is a perception that is a little unfair to those that don't get service. I'm not throwing shade on any of these 3 services. I think they're all great, but I think a lot of people would say these should be operated and funded by the townships or the village of Hebron, not by the county taxpayers. So those are the 3 things I just wanted to mention before I have to take off, unfortunately. But I am open to having this conversation in the future.
Thank you. Matt?
Scott does yeoman's work. Anybody who's seen him work in all the things in every meeting, my head swims out like, I don't know how he can do all that at one time. But I think ultimately, we're gonna have to embrace the free market society because they've done it better than anybody else has. If the county does a countywide transportation, as they are doing now, and as we on the board know is at max capacity dollar-wise, from that point on, I think the future of this is going to be something where we can provide vouchers to the free market system where Uber rides and things who do a great job, and financially, it's always door to door, and it's on time, and it's an immediate need. I think there's gonna have to be some sort of marriage with that at some point where the county provides vouchers in the areas it doesn't reach, that somebody on the capitalist side of this is working. Even if we don't get a cut rate, they're still right now the most efficient and cost-effective transportation out there, both to the environment and to the dollar per mile. So we have to open that bigger picture. I mentioned that in transportation too. That's for down the road.
And we also will invite our partners in to come and talk about the viability of something like that, vouchers, even with them. So I'm not closed-minded to anything. Rhonda?
Okay, let me ask you before you cut out of here. Okay, you and I have talked about this. You guys are providing Pace Bus by the county across into Kane, which we so appreciate in Huntley.
Yeah.
Because your counterpart in Kane County does nothing for the village of Huntley. In fact, Kane County does nothing for the village of Huntley. And we had that discussion at your house. You'll probably never talk to me again, but I don't care. Anyway, so why is it that, and I'm the first, I live in a senior development. I see the deterioration. It's an aging up society. Why are we doing it by townships? That's old fashioned, when townships are more important. Why is it the county not picking up part of those expenses of McHenry, Richmond, and Hebron? You're talking 2 townships there out of a number of townships in McHenry alone. I'm having a hard time understanding this. It's overlapping. I think it should all be encumbered under the county.
Well, and just to clarify, just so everybody understands, the county provides services in the village of Hebron, in Richmond Township, and in McHenry Township. We are providing, I've got buses there in all 3 of those municipalities right now operating today. They also operate their own services that is in some ways duplicative or redundant, if you want to say that word. And we've been providing service in those communities for many years now, operated and paid for by the county. It's just that these townships are also providing a service on top of that themselves.
So that's what I'm saying.
So those are good questions then at the application process. Why give you the money when the county's already doing it, and have them explain that to you?
And I know why
you know,
they
put
ask.
them on.
I do, but
Right.
everybody's gonna ask if there's available funds out there, they're gonna ask, that's their job, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm not offended by that. We just have to garner additional information and basically have the conversation and say, this is why we're kind of leaning in a different direction today.
Right.
Right?
So have them make their case to you in September then of why you should be willing to
I'm gonna
allocate
bring
dollars
it up.
to
That's,
them.
that's
We-
an
No,
issue.
but I'm just saying for everybody, everybody's having a
Yeah,
question.
we beat
I
this
think
horse
that-
up. We'll
yeah.
invite them to make a presentation unless during our conversations prior to September, we come back with it and we'll make that presentation then at that particular point too. So that's a possibility, but we won't exclude them.
So
Again,
I have another,
I'm so sorry.
Mary, oh, I'm sorry,
You go
Scott,
ahead.
you want to?
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say,
Scott's got his bag in
the
his
more
hand.
transportation we provide, the better. Again, I'm not trying to get rid of these programs. I think they're great. I think they operate a niche thing that the township wants to do. That's perfectly fine. I think the issue is, should the county be subsidizing these programs to the extent that they
That
are
is the
today?
question.
So again, I don't want to be perceived as anti-township programs. I am not that at all. Algonquin Township still operates a program, but they haven't gone after this funding at all. They operated on their own township levy, as Grafton Township used to do as well.
Which again is why the conversation has to be had at a meeting and the questions asked
Right.
and exactly the
Right.
same thing. Viable ask, we're not gonna do this anymore because we're using county money to basically underwrite a township service. So I agree, okay. All right, moving on.
So I have another one.
Yes,
So
please.
McHenry Township, their senior outreach and activities coordinator.
Yes, ma'am, go.
So, I'm like, isn't that what senior services is already running that senior center up there? So for me, that it doesn't make sense. Is something changed that we don't know about? I went back and looked at senior services proposal, and it says for the McHenry and Crystal Lake Senior Center. So for me, I live in McHenry Township, I'm a senior.
I
I'm
will
gonna
tell
be
you,
there at some point, but I don't
background
get
is
it.
that they did provide this, they reduced or they eliminated this program, they're trying to start it up again, I do not disagree.
Senior services
No,
eliminated
no,
or?
McHenry Township.
Okay.
McHenry Township, and I agree, I think this is a duplicate of services. Be happy to have that conversation with them and tell them that, maybe there's something else. But I do believe we have other organizations that provide the service for the area.
Yeah.
So I would
Yeah.
also agree, I would
I
not
see.
invite them to come and do a presentation. Thank you for that.
We're all
I was
like-
hoping you'd go in that direction.
Yes.
Can I,
Love
just
that.
going to one of mine too, is it the SOAR program, is that the one we talked about?
Yeah.
I'm questioning whether that meets the mission and who they're actually serving, if that's a senior service, that SOAR
Which ones?
program, the SOAR program, that they provide services for DD
Like autism.
and autism. So I'm just questioning. I don't, in fact, I called Hans and asked the question. And by the way, so you all know, I have served on Pioneer Foundation Board for a bazillion years, real familiar, love them to death. I just don't know if we've ever gone out and evaluated and audited and see what this program does and if it really, in seriousness, really serves that population. So I just wanted to throw that out. Teresa, and then Paula.
My understanding from previous years is that they get to define senior at a younger age because of the population, so that they're not the typical senior, they're like maybe in their 40s or 50s, in their 50s.
They're seniors for that population.
Right,
Yes.
yeah. So, I mean, I could see how maybe they're just meeting the criteria. So the day program though is, one of the day programs I understand more than like the housing programs, because I think there's like a real nuance between, saying we're keeping them in their home and saying, well, their home's actually a facility, right? So it's like a real slight nuance, and I always, every year I think about that, like, what is the difference really between being in a facilities, home care, and being in a facility? But this one is the day program, this is the,
Yeah,
this
this
is
is
the drop
so-
off.
And to me, it's also respite for the caregivers.
Yeah.
So they're going in, they're having their active lifestyles, they're getting that social part,
Mhm.
and it's also respite for their
Mhm.
caregivers. So it's, to me then, that would be like the same as the day program for Independence Health. You know, that program, yes, it's helping the senior, they're being in their home, but their caregivers are also getting that respite. So, it's that social isolation that they would have if that wasn't there.
And I'll just tell you, I only looked at this because the ask is substantially higher this year than it's been in the past. So just look at that as well. Matt?
I agree. I have actually two along that lines that I think the bar for a senior has been lowered too low and too out of our lane when we have so many truly aging senior population and so few dollars. So this one was one that on my notes I have bumped aside.
And again, I have no problems, you know, again, Mary, if you would be available just as the vice chair to meet with them and talk to them. And I'm not saying they should make a presentation, I'm just, you know.
Yeah, their ask is exactly the same as last year.
I thought it was more.
No, they asked 138, 672, we granted 124
So
for
what
the
agency
SOAR,
is this?
and they asked exactly the same amount this year.
I see.
Mary, can you repeat that, what agency?
For SOAR,
They were-
for
The ask is the
Okay,
same,
for
the
SOAR.
funding
Yeah.
was lower.
The
Right.
funding was lower.
Sorry.
But the funding was lower for everybody, so.
You should know the mental health board funds them.
Right.
Yeah, and
They
that was
do.
the other. Yes, I know
They
they
should
do.
know that.
Rhonda?
Okay, this is a senior current commission, and I looked at, and I dealt, that's what I did for a living, was supervising special needs people. But anyway, so I looked at both Pioneer Centers, and I'm familiar with them. One does deal with senior specific, okay? And that is, of course, the human services one. And I looked at the salary, it's not just one salary, obviously it's a staff salary, okay? Then I looked at the other one, and that's not senior specific, which is what we're about. And so I'm wondering if that's even relevant to even talk about.
Which
Is
one?
that the residential program that you're talking about?
SOAR.
Sure.
Oh,
And it's another, almost 140,000 in salaries, but, and they're getting grants and incomes from clients, and they're serving 26 people, blah, blah. But it actually is about exercise and health. What, that's not us. It isn't.
That's true.
question?
I was the one who brought it up, so I.
A question again for them in the fall, in September.
Well, again, I'm suggesting that those people that don't immediately rise to the top of the presentation, we have a sidebar conversation and see where that is, and maybe we don't bring them forward.
Well, their financial score, if you look at the, I really want to say that I appreciate those thoughts. The Pioneer Center is 19.05. And I looked at the financials, and the grant application, and then I looked at the plotting and the efficiency of those dollars. And I know that that's something to really look at. And I also concur that the exercise and all that stuff, I didn't think really that,
Again, I will tell you, and I don't think, I won't say I'm cynical, but I'm jaded to some degree. I get it. Organizations are stretched to the nth degree with regard to financing and funding and fundraising. And so the inclination and the board direction, I'm certain, is to go after every dollar they possibly can go after. God bless them. Sitting here, we have 1.6 million, and I wanted to go, and we said that from the beginning, I wanted to go to programs that are going to improve the lives of our seniors and meet the mission. And we have to make hard decisions, and that's the only reason that was something I looked at and thought, you know, that's a huge amount of money, in my estimation. Just say it, Matt.
Are we done with that one?
Yeah.
Well, I have a light one, that's why I thought I'd bring it up while we're on this exact same conversation.
Sure.
That's just one that I had marked with, as a meet with after on my paperwork too.
Which one, sir?
The one, so, yeah. So I don't know what the decision is at that. Anyway, the other one I had, and maybe I'm gonna garner some grief of this, is Home of the Sparrows. We give them lots and lots of money. Their line is again 50 for a senior. I mean, they tell me 50 is the new 40, so I don't know. That's a long way down. And as a county, in a county as a whole, in my district as a whole, we give them lots and lots of money from other sources. And I don't, reading the thing, it doesn't look like to me, and I don't know the organization, that it is senior specific as we're trying to be, or we should be.
Well, this is dealing with senior homeless women and making sure that they're getting their, that specialized, because I think,
I get it, but they
In
don't
the past-
discern, but they don't just discern senior, no, they deal with homeless women, period.
they do.
And they do a good job of mediating that line irrespective of age and or other afflictions. They take care of that. And they are well-funded, well-funded. Without our measly little grant, they will go on just as strong as ever, and those dollars could be put forth to possibly something that zeroes in a little more specific on what I deem a senior. Now, that's my opinion as a senior versus theirs. But you get to a point, and for someone who's out there fixing seniors' homes and doing things, you do feel for these people who are right on the cusp. They live on Social Security alone. And that's not happening because they were poor work stewards of their money. That's because they live longer now, and all of a sudden they've outlived their savings. Those are the people that I deem are in need of a senior service grant or grant help.
Right, and to answer the 50, that was determined at the beginning of this commission.
Understood. I
that
totally
50
understand that.
Because we figured the special age requirements, depending on what the agency was that was coming through.
Totally
So
understand. But
50's
to the
been-
chair's point, we're 1.6, we're 2.6 asked. Hard lines, we're gonna have to be drawn in the sand here. And this is one that we could stop a grant and it would not affect the services they provide to seniors or otherwise at all.
Well, their score for financial score overview is 77.72. They're higher up on that graph, if you take a look at it. And I hate to say that one should be punitive to an organization that does a good job fundraising, and they've diversified their fundraising base. They're not overly dependent on one funding stream over another, but if you want to look at these scores, and I circled it when I was reviewing the grant application, and because I think that it's important to look at the financial viability, right?
And please understand, we will meet with every one of these entities that do not move forward to make a full presentation, explain the situation, and encourage them to come back in the event that there's a situation that they really need or that we have more money. I won't hold my breath on that, but in that, so I'm not, we're limited. I mean, these are hard decisions, and I want to give everybody something. But we only have 1.6, and everybody knows costs are going up. Providing services is more expensive today than it was, and this has been, how long have we had 1.6?
20 years.
20, I mean, it goes this far.
Yeah.
So that's when, and we will meet with them. I'm not telling you that we're gonna call and say, you didn't make it. We're gonna call in and set it up and go through and explain to people, and again, encourage them to come back.
I have one, Elderworks.
Okay, so am I okay to say Home of the Sparrow is not a presentation?
I don't know. I mean,
I agree with it.
what's up?
I'm gonna say, I don't agree with
Yeah.
eliminating them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I asked you.
I would have them in before some of the other ones, so yeah.
Okay.
Here's my thought, okay, and I don't know if we're in sync or not. I'm a member of the Huntley Area Alliance, and we do donate. We've had women go in from our club and donate their time and work with them. We have a society, obviously, of which maybe none of us have experienced it, but I worked in Appalachia and saw it, okay? They're dealing with 55 seniors. Home of the Sparrow deals with a lot more clients than the 55, because they're dealing with women who are abused, who are coming in under the radar to have housing, okay? No matter how long it takes to get up on their feet. And we have to take care of those, they're almost all women. We have to take care of them. That's the way I feel as a society, okay? And so I'm impressed that they even have 50 seniors that they're taking care of, because if you had said to me, seniors, I would have said, what? Mainly they're younger domestic women, marriage, whatever, okay, with young kids. I don't think we should eliminate them. I think we need more information from them.
Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll tell them specifically that we're asking about the seniors.
And versus how many
I
other
got
clients.
it, yep, got it, thank you.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
and one thing too, from the beginning, we've always told every agency that's come here too, you've got your funding this year, but that doesn't guarantee you've got funding next
Thank you.
year.
That's true.
That wasn't the intention of this, it was to kind of help bridge, but then the different economic times have made it where everybody's come back every single year, but that was always the plan, was that this wasn't supposed to be a recurring for 20 years that you would get this funding.
So, thus far, just to kind of recap, the only person I've got is a definitive no is the Barrington Area Council on Aging.
McHenry
I
Township.
thought we
and-
threw out the
And
veterans
Habitat.
coordinator.
And I thought Habitat too.
Okay, that's why I'm doing it.
I still like Habitat Humanities, like,
Okay.
If I may,
yeah.
one of the points that's important to me that I think kind of got lost in the transportation conversation, I personally pick on any taxing authority. If I have to pick from a non-for-profit that has to fight for every dollar they get, or a politician, me, who can say, hey, listen to taxpayers, if I need more money, I have to prove to you that I need it, I'm gonna ask for it, and it's my job to back it up. I don't think any taxing body deserves to be on the table. Compared to, and they're all great programs, but compared to a not-for-profit who fights for every dollar they get,
I'm looking at you and I had the exact same conversation. And I didn't want to be harsh, but I had the exact same conversation with Hans yesterday.
Well, and that was the reason why they stopped funding the county transportation when they were coming and asking for
Right.
money. Because board members and non-board members were all like, why is the county coming to us for money that's already tax money? So that was why
This, yeah,
They
this
stopped.
is, this is the one taxing body underwriting another taxing body, which
Right.
seems to me to be a little bit cockeyed.
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, big time.
And then take that-
And why those
Double
three
dipping,
and nobody else,
if you will.
right? Why those three and nobody else? I just have,
Well, and I think for the two farthest ones, Richmond and Hebron, the reason why they keep coming is because they, yes. And I think Hebron is probably more about the social, having
It is.
social opportunities for their seniors that they
and
don't
maybe we need to
normally
rewrite
have.
that grant, right?
Instead of, which is still going towards the health, the mental health, this is how it will be discussed, is it's still going to the mental health of the seniors that allows them to be able to stay in their home.
I agree with
Again,
Mayor.
And so-
understand, but there has to be that, again, I'd much rather have it go to a not-for-profit that specifically does that than another taxing body that is offering an additional
Right.
It's important. They should
service.
tax
We will
them.
direct those people to the services that they should be directed to.
Right.
That's part of our job too. Let's put them in touch with the people that we need to, and if there is a void, then we need to talk to our service providers and say, we're seeing that.
Right,
What do we need to fix that?
right.
But I'm up, it's up to you, yes, the McHenry additional recreational person.
Right.
Okay, so where are we, just so
So,
I'm clear? What
Barrington-
about SOAR?
I think we decided, I think there were enough people, my feeling is that there were enough that said have them come and defend it.
I would say they're removed, or meet with after.
That's what I agree to.
Peg, how do you
Okay.
feel?
think I'd like to have them come in and defend, or at least have a conversation with you all and see if we can.
We're gonna do that anyway.
Okay.
Right, but if we ask them not to come in and do a presentation and then we learn something different,
Right.
it's too late for them to fill out the application.
Right.
Let me explain too. Some of those, we'll definitely tell them to fill out the application, but we'll also invite them in and say that this is the conversation that was had. So,
Yeah.
Paula, how do you feel?
Well, they historically, Pioneer Center historically, have always asked for much more money than what we could ever allocate. And we've had past conversations with them of why their allocation, why their request supersedes any kind of expectation that they could receive from us. And so I read the application and I go, here we go again, you know. They're asking by far more money than we could ever allocate to them. That's number one. And
For different programs.
both programs they
The
have.
same,
And
yeah.
And
I'm
maybe
looking
know this
at-
year will put them more in perspective for next year.
And I'm looking to Hans and some of you that served in the past. Isn't that true? They've
Yes.
asked
Well, here,
much more money than what we could.
2020, for the senior residential, they asked for 300,324. SOAR, they asked for 234,170. Now, they have never gotten funded for that. So in 2020, they were funded 100,000 for residential and 120. So they're asking now more in line what we brought them down from 300 to 100, and they're asking for 162 for the residential this year. So they have actually changed their ask over the last 3 years. I feel understanding that 300,000 is not
Yeah,
anything
but
they're ever gonna get, where the other agencies haven't done that. Some of the other
That's
bigger
true.
agencies that are asking for money are either asking for the same or more.
I
So, just something, I'm just
I
throwing
get
it out there.
No, I get it, I get the money. I'm just saying, I don't think, in my estimation, I don't think they're meeting the overall priority of our mission. That's, and if I can eliminate, I want to do that up front as opposed to having them go through the application
Right.
process, and then I come in with kind of an attitude that, you know, when I look at this, I'm going to give it to the people that I really think are meeting the goal and the core of our mission. That's all. And again, they have other available. So Paula, I again ask, yea or nay?
Well, if you have any questions about the grant application, bring them in, but I would say no.
Eric?
No.
I say yes, but there's enough no's that it might.
Yes,
be
they're actually, at
something.
this point, there's 5
Yeah.
no's. So if that's Teresa,
Yeah, I'll say no to.
okay. So, thank you. I just am trying to narrow down. So, and Habitat,
I think there's enough funding out there
I agree.
to take care of the seniors.
I kind of do too.
Well, it's a greater issue than that, because of Jimmy Carter and so forth. The money that pours into Habitat is huge, okay? And I was just rereading, I took a lot of notes on that one. And, so, I just had to debrief, go over this real fast. They get corporate grants, they get money from their clients, they get county money, they get federal grants, they get donations and appeals, okay? They run that thrift store, because I know, because Lions Club has been there, all right? And then they get interest income. We don't even know how much income they get, okay? And in accounts. So out of all that, they serve 208 seniors, but in what way? Building their houses, fixing them? I think it's nebulous. And they're very wealthy, Habitat.
So I gather that's a no.
But they have to justify it, okay? That's the way I feel, why they really need this money. When they themselves shot themselves in the foot.
You know what, I'm going to say again. If I am on a board and I know there are available grant funds, I look at my executive director and I say, apply and see what happens. See what happens.
Exactly.
So my point is that
Right.
knowing that everybody does that, it's our job to say, great, you know, but my needs are this big and, you know, I have that much. So I'm leaning towards saying, we'll meet with them, we'll talk to them, but no,
No.
not this time. No, we don't even want you to present, because I don't want you to waste your time going through
I
the
agree.
application.
I
That's all I'm
agree.
saying.
You're
I
right.
agree.
I agree.
I say no.
No.
I say no.
Teresa?
I still say yes, but I'm gonna get them coming out.
Okay, I've got Matt and Teresa's yeses. Anybody else? All right, no. Thank you, just clarification. And I swear to you, we'll meet with them and explain, you know? I don't want anybody to feel that we're being callous. You're out.
And we're always looking for new applications, and so you always kind of feel bad when you say, we're looking for new
So can we talk-
agencies to help, and then we go, but not you.
Well, and hopefully we'll have a conversation as we move forward
Yeah.
with some funds too. So. Paula?
Elder Works.
Elder Works.
Okay, we're back to Elder Works. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think they've continually applied.
This is at least the
to
third time that they've applied.
Yeah, you're right, Peggy, at least third time they've applied, and we've had we brought them in, we've had conversations with them about how they differentiate themselves from senior services associates of McHenry County for case management services. And I think, again, Elder Works is a redundancy of what is already being provided in the county for seniors as far as the hub of getting information referral and other kinds of services to seniors. And that hub is Senior Services Associates of McHenry County. I read the application again this year, and it didn't shed new light on it for me. So I'd like other people to weigh in and tell me I'm wrong.
And a lot of their focus, it seemed, too, was on education of providers.
And
Not
not to direct to the
direct
senior.
clients, yeah.
Teresa, you've been here in the past too. Comment?
Well, I mean, so this is what's been stated the last 2 years, is that they're not different. I don't know. I also feel like I've heard that they do serve a purpose in the county. So like I have been conflicted on this, because like when I hear the providers, they say, oh, we all work together, you know, it's interconnected, but then our commission has said no both years that I've been on it. So, I mean, in the sense that even if I say yes, they're still gonna get voted down no in September.
I don't have enough information to guide this conversation. So, Peg, you two were here previously. What do you feel?
I say no, it was a duplication
Yeah.
in my mind.
And Rhonda, you two, you're a past member. Do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, here's my point. They're getting ready to hold another all-day thing at Stonegate Conference Center in Hoffman Estates.
That's true.
Took a whole page in yesterday's paper.
Mhm.
They have done it. I went to MCC when they were there too this year. They're getting funded by multiple counties, that's what they're reaching out to, and we don't even know how many other townships. I don't think they are appropriate for us. We're McHenry specific.
Well, I'm sure
They're all over the
I'm sure
place.
those dollars are used
spent
in Cary,
only- yes,
but yeah.
exactly.
Matt, do you have any comment?
Well, speaking to that comment, it does the same thing to me as Home of the Sparrows. They have lots and lots of money and reach out all over and across counties. So that's not the vain argument. But Elder Works per se, other than what I've read now, that's all I know about it. So I am acquiescent to the committee's vote.
Eric, do you want to weigh in or?
No, well, I agree with what everyone's saying, I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I know, I apologize too. So I'm gonna lean in the direction for the former, and that's a no. Okay.
Are we just gonna go down the line on them from there?
All right, so let's start, well, listen, we've done yeoman's work this morning. I'm really kind of much better than I thought we were gonna be, so.
Could I ask a question real quick?
Eric,
I'm sorry.
please.
Well, so Rhonda caught my attention when she was talking about different counties and everything. And that's what, so I wasn't, I was paying attention, I'm sorry, well, I am taking this seriously. She caught my attention and I grabbed, I know this is a stupid question because I know they do service in McHenry County, but the name has to grab you when it's called Lake County Center for Independent Living. And my question is, how do we even know, and maybe this is defined, but how do we know that I'm going to be staying in McHenry County?
It's not.
Because they have to prove it in their expenses.
They do.
Yeah, they do,
Yeah.
yeah.
And actually,
Yeah,
That's what I'm looking at, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lake County actually
Is in.
bled into, I'm familiar with them through my Senate days, so they do bleed into McHenry.
So the ones we've knocked off already, how much money have we saved?
Not much.
About a quarter of a million.
Yes, that's true, about, right.
Yeah, about a quarter of a million.
So there's,
200,
We have work to do.
well, there's $200,000 that.
250.
Over, we were over $600,000 in asks, and now we're down to only being $350 over an ask.
But again, I'm not so worried about the money at this particular point. I'm worried about who we want to spend the time to do the application, to come in and make a presentation.
Right.
So
Right, my thing is that I would have been fine. It is a long day. It is a long
Yeah, right,
day.
it's a long day, right.
But, like, I was agreeing with everybody coming
Informative,
in.
right?
What's up?
And informative.
It is
You
informative.
learn a lot
Right.
more
Yes.
Yeah.
about the
Right.
agencies
Yeah.
bringing
No
them
doubt.
in.
No doubt.
So I mean, I was actually agreeable to everybody coming, even though I knew that there was a push for us to kind of cut it down. I was like, oh, I went through this last week, and I was like, oh, everybody can come, sure.
I like them all.
Right.
Well,
Let them fight for their money, right? Because right
That's
now,
what I
we
feel.
have members here, and they're here to like quietly listen to us.
Right.
so
And they can't fight back if we're saying, well, they're almost gone here, you know?
That's senior volunteer care network.
What I wanted to do today is what we've been doing, is you call those entities that you think
Yeah.
don't really meet what it is. Right here and now, look at the rest of the list. If you want the rest of those people to come forward and make, do applications, I am quite pleased that we got to where we got, because I didn't think we were gonna do that. But, does anybody else have any comments?
I think they're all,
I'm gonna go to
I
that
mean,
one.
pretty well pulled off what
Yeah,
I
good.
thought.
So Paul, I agree. I'm fine with everybody else on this list coming forward and doing an application and making a presentation. And again, with the understanding that maybe those townships might not be here depending upon the conversations that we have and how we work with the county. We may have a separate presentation from the county that
Right.
incorporates all of that information. I'm not sure.
After September.
No, probably
A
before
presentation?
September.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's only a couple weeks away.
September?
Well, we've lost our August.
Next week.
It's a lifetime. Yeah. I really want to work on that and see if there isn't a better way to deal with it. I mean, we may ask them to fill out the application with the understanding that, there's some real strong feelings.
Well, I think everybody needs to understand that we ask to go forward, that we're tight on money as always, and that they're really going to be held accountable for explaining and defending why they're needing the amount of money that they're asking for. And I think that's something we've always asked them to do.
But I think it's a strategic planning issue about how we configure a transportation program.
I'm gonna miss you when you're gone. That's another conversation I want to have too,
But I mean, it's
moving
like,
forward.
here I'm just sitting back here listening, and I agree with Harvard. I think that transportation is more about social up there, getting people to the senior center and that kind of thing. But that being said, I've always been a proponent of having a hub and having connectivity for transportation for everybody in the county. And so I think bringing the people together and say strategically, we need to start talking about the big picture in the future of where this transportation is going to be, and give them some time to, prepare for it, so we're not leaving them in the lurch with their transportation programs in the townships.
I'm gonna guess that there's not a single one of these townships that are gonna eliminate the
Give
program
them
because they don't
time
get money.
to transition, and especially, you know, I grew up in a community that I'm moving to, and as a former welfare mom, I didn't have a car, and if I did have a car, it was duct taped, and you could see, there was so much rust, I could see the slush and everything on the pavement as I was driving it around. So, that being said, they had, the community was tri-county, across county lines, Eaton, Ingham, and Clinton, and they had a robust transportation program for everybody, and I got away with not having a car, and seniors were taking it, and it was cost effective, and I'm not suggesting that we cross county lines, but I'm just saying that there are ways of doing transportation that's cost effective, is accessible, it has connectivity, and it's used. There's not two people in a bus or whatever. It's an economy of scale.
Understood.
So, when I moved here, I was startled 28 years ago when I couldn't find a bus, or I couldn't do this, and you know, we're everywhere. So I suggest this is a good idea. I hope that you folks will consider it, because we have to. We don't have the money.
Do not disagree. So I'm sorry, Brenda?
I'm sorry. And I brought an idea because you just triggered at me,
Yeah.
my famous conversation at your house.
Why
I would
weren't
like
we
to see that
invited?
the chairperson of McHenry County contact the chairperson of Kane County, okay? And insist that Kane fund the Sun City portion for the
Agree.
bus, okay?
Can they do
They're
that?
loaded with money. Think of all the rich towns in Kane County. And that's why I'm curious, because I do live in Kane County, okay? But I'm more active here in McHenry, obviously, but that's not the issue. I think it should be chairperson to chairperson.
They meet, I can suggest that.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, they meet monthly, that's not like.
Yeah. And you're talking two soft-spoken people, but it's time, and I love Mike, I do, I'm a fan. Tell him to get really tough with her.
Well, maybe he should just tuck you in his back pocket. You can kind of poke him along.
We can have that conversation, seriously, we do shared services, we do lots of stuff.
Do you know how many seniors that is, how many homes?
Well,
No, I'm gonna tell you, right now in Sun City, people don't even realize the extent of it. We have 9,000 people in that community, 5,200 homes.
All right.
2/3, remember, Pam, lives in Kane County, and we got nothing from them. That's important. And then on top of it, all the other money, Amazon, all the rest of that, we send that way. But I'm serious, that bus, they turned us down.
Kane,
Okay, Rutland Township, I gave up going there. I went there for over 10 years to ask them for money to help fund our seniors who are aging up. We have 90-year-olds, 100-year-olds, okay? They can't drive. That service is important.
I will, thank you.
That's a political issue, and I can't get into it
Actually,
because she already
scared
hates
me.
my guts. And you're political.
I've never wanted to get that wound up, so, okay,
Oh, I have.
we'll do that.
She's done it here.
Are we?
This is Shane.
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
So I do want to point out, Brenda, that under the Community Development Block Grant Program, any border communities are required to identify through what they call urban county certification every 3 years, whether they want to participate in one county or the other or split. So Huntley actually participates all in Henry County, and there may be some perception that all these other programs are doing the same thing, and I think that's where there may be some confusion. So we could provide CDBG funds and home funds to all of Huntley, and none of Fox Lake, because Fox Lake opted into
I
Lake
took on
Huntley.
the lake, yeah.
So, and like Barrington is all split by county, so they just all split up that way. So CDBG is a good, like a resource for that area. And we can localize with CDBG funds, unlike,
I understand that, but there could be a lot more the other county could be doing on behalf of their tax-paying citizens.
yes, and the private paying for
Okay.
that.
I made my point.
Yes, you did.
So,
Good
can
for you.
Can I, again, make the assumption that we have culled who we want, and we're gonna go forward, and invite everyone else to fill out
Yes.
an application and make a presentation? I'm comfy. I apologize, I skipped old business. Do you wanna talk about allocation of the funds and where we are, because it looks pretty good?
So here are our expenses to date. The two highlighted ones of Richmond Township and McHenry Township, they have expended all their $20,000 that they were allocated this last year. This one's highlighted because I am actually still waiting on the second quarter submittal. And then all the rest of the agencies have already submitted, and we have either paid or it's still in review by the auditor's office as far as their second quarter submittal goes. I did speak with Pearls, they are only at 92% expended. They will be able to go ahead and use the rest of the grant before the term ends, so that'd be November 30th. And then I also spoke with Senior Service Associates regarding their boarding cleanup, because they've only expended 4%, they would have 96% left over. This is the response I got from them. It looks like they still had ESG funding that they had to use by 6/30, so June 30th. So they had to go ahead and use the remainder of that funding, and then they will be able to spend the rest of the funding by November 30th.
That makes sense.
To make sure that they're in compliance as well.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much, Bianca, appreciate that. Next item on the agenda is member comments and/or criticism and/or advice and/or anything. Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mary, seconded by Kunkel, meeting adjourned. Thank you very, very much. Very productive.
I just wanted to throw out something about, in honor of Paula, who was our previous chair, we brought in some festive cupcakes.
And you
Celebrate
know
your being here.
And the staff should enjoy for a happy Friday too.
Please,
Yes.
everybody take one.